Hi, Quaha here. I'm a real estate agent that specializes in buying and selling home in Orange County, California. Today we're going to dive into somewhat of a different topic compared to my other videos I uploaded in the last few weeks. Today we're going to go through a new form that is required by law because of a lawsuit settlement, a class action lawsuit that happened with NAR in a couple months ago. And the form is called the buyer broker agreement. Every buyer agent starting on August 17th, they need to require this to be signed by the buyer before they can show any house to them. And this agreement is essential to the home search process. In addition to that, I think it's very important to go through the California purchase contract. The reason for that is because most of the time, a buyer and their agent, when they first start their home search, all they focus on is just to find the right home, take a look at it, view it, go into maybe like a private showing, and then once they're done with that, they submit an offer. But between the time that they start searching and the time that they found a home, they never kind of like go through the purchase contract and go and detail the important item on it. So when they find a house and then the agent draft up the contract and then send it to the buyer to sign, they don't have enough time to review it because the contract is like 16 plus pages long. So this is a good time to review it. Hopefully I can do it in like 10 to 15 minutes of a video so that you can see it and be aware of it before your agent sends you the contract to sign. Then you can go back and see what question you might have and respond to the agent when they send the contract to you. So let's get started. Okay. Here you go. So first of all, we're gonna go through then the buyer broker agreement, also known as a buyer representation or broker compensation agreement. So it started out the first page. There's nothing much to talk about on the first page other than so this is the form that establish the relationship between you and your agent. So the only thing that you need to worry about on here is just the buyer. For example, say your name is John Doe. Then the agent's gonna put your name here. They're gonna put their company here. Uh, right here is where the firm name is. My firm name is Next Home Wealth Builders, and they have their own, like the firm have their own DRE number. This is my name, my agent, and then my DRE number. 1018237. Yeah, there you go. And then that's it. So basically that's the first page of it. Nothing here. And then here's where the form start: buyer representation and broker compensation, also known as a BBA, which is like buyer broker agreement. So there's a date to prepare between John Doe and the company and represent period. So this is the term of the period. For example, if you give them the work with agent for 3 months, then the agent's gonna put the date, and then 3 months from that date, which is October of 13th. Type of representation usually is exclusive, which means like yeah, they work with you exclusively as a buyer, and you don't have another person to represent you. Property type, if they don't check anything, then it's all single family, condo or any other type of manufactured home. If you only work with this agent for one specific property, make sure that they check this box right here and put in the property address, which is like for example, like 137, like 1234 Adam Street, and Garden Grove, uh, CA, like that. If you only work with them for one specific property. If it's not, then if you want only work with them for a specific county, then they enter it here, or a specific city, enter it here. Additional buyer reference. So this one we don't have anything here. And then any property that you have, kind of like if you work with another seller already for a specific property and you don't want it to be included in this contract, you can actually put the address here. So for example, yeah, there we go. So and then or any other property if they have a list of property that you already work with. Here's the amount of compensation. So for example, let's say you agree to pay the buy agent 2%. This is only if the seller is not paying for it, because you know, the buyer agent also have the right, if you give them the right to negotiate their compensation in the contract. So for the amount of compensation here, put 2% or whatever amount it is. And then as you can see here in this section, is that payment if broker receive compensation from the seller or others for broker representation of buyer, the amount shall be credited against buyer obligation. So for example, let's see, broker shall not receive any amount in excess of here 2E1. So let's say if the seller can't compensate you for more than 2% if you put 2% here, because you only the buyer only agreed to pay you for 2%. So make sure that whatever amount you're willing to pay the buyer, that you ask them to ask the seller for it. If you don't want to pay for it, and hope the sellers can pay for it for you. And then the period continue after so how many calendar day after expiration. Cancellation is in writing. Cancellation after 30 days. Time to deliver is within 5 days. All these are normal, so you don't have to worry much about it. Buyer does not have sufficient fund. Like those are what the agent check. If you don't have fund to pay for the agent, you can check here, and then you can have your agent to negotiate into the contract, and then any other term put it here. So here, none of this need to be. It's just a standard form, so you can just leave it blank. There's nothing to sign here. It's gonna ask you the initial here, and then your broker's initial here. So blank, blank, blank. Go down, down. So technically, make sure you understand that when you put 2% here, it doesn't mean that you have to pay 2% if the buyer purchases a property. You can negotiate that into the contract and have the seller pay for it. And like I tell every single one of my clients that if you don't like the house, if you like the house, but the seller is not willing to pay for the commission, for my commission, I'm happy to walk away and look for another house that the seller is willing to pay for it. So even if you sign this with your agent, doesn't mean that you have to pay it if you buy a house. You only have to pay it if you like the house enough and the seller isn't willing to pay. Then you still want to move forward, then you pay. But you always have the final say of have to pay or not. Anyway, here's the your name, and then broker name and the broker address, email address, and stuff like that. So this one is just for a particular property. It's this one you will see again in another form because it's attached here. But if you're already in the purchase, you fill up the purchase contract, then the address for that property is here. So there, sign, and yes, advisory listing agreement concept is in fully negotiable. Yeah, it's always been fully negotiable. Addition compensation is self-presented. You need to worry about that portion of it. So I think that's basically it for the buyer broker agreement. So sign, and that's it. That form is technically it's only like one or 2 page long, but I don't know why they have 13 page on it. Anyway, and then of course here again like you see this form already, but it's also in the California purchase agreement. So it's repeating, so it's the same one. But the other one they show you the compensation. So the date prepare for this purchase agreement is here, date, and then of course you have to put in the property address. Like let's say Chino Hill, city. Oh wait, sorry. So this one's the address. So for example, this is the address of your the property that you want. Zip code, California. In what city? Sorry, city, county. Let me just put an address. North Garden, Orange County. That, and then make sure that your agent put in the parcel number here, because if it's incorrect, then you might have to update it with escrow later on. And then the firm that is selling, which is the listing agent firm, they will put it here. For example, let's say it's this one, their license number need to be here, and then they're a seller exclusive. The agent name for that, it's like, let's say Adam, the agent name. So, and then of course your agent name, firm here, your agent name here, that, and then this will be checked. Uh, um, this will be checked in default. That means your agent can represent more than one buyer, which is like they can offer it. And then here's the important part: purchase price. For example, if it's $1 million, put it here. If it's an all cash offer, make sure your agent checked here. If it's not, don't check there. Close the escrow. Technically, it's like around we're estimating between 30 days. So put it here. If it's longer, then you make sure that your agent put the right amount of day here, because you might need more days to move or to do your loan, anything like that. So expiration, put it here of the offer. So your offer expires in 3 days if they don't respond to you. Initial deposit, usually I put $10,000. This is the amount that will you have to deposit into escrow right away within 3 days. They can give you an escrow number. They open up escrow and give you an escrow number and then a wire instruction for you to deposit this money. This money will be returned back to you if you cancel the contract before all your contingency has been removed. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. This money will be refunded back to you if the transaction is canceled prior to all contingency being removed. So make sure that you don't remove all the contingency unless you know 99.9% sure that you're gonna get it. Uh, and I'll mention more about it in a second. So increase deposit, you don't have to put any here. Low amount, so for example, if you're down 20%, then you're gonna borrow 800,000. You put it here. This one is for an exit. So let's say the rate right now is 7, and you don't know like if it's volatile, and you don't know if it's gonna be much higher than that. For example, if you can't afford an 8% rate and you need that to if that happened, then you can cancel the contract, and you have your agent put the 8% rate, so it's not to exceed 8%. So if the rate turned out to be 8%, and you don't want the property anymore, then you can just say, oh, the rate's too high, and then I can cancel it. And then how much point you pay in obtaining the rate. Usually use 1% max. So just put 1 point is 1%. And what type of loan it is. Technically, you don't need to enter into this unless it's something because most of the time it's conventional for my clients. So you leave it blank, it's gonna be conventional. Maybe you can apply for an FHA, a VA, or a seller financing. Then you check these, and then this is just leave it there. Deliver within 17 days. Check the list of lender requirement there. Yeah. So if it's an FSA or VA loan, there's a list of repair that is required by those loan, and it needs to be delivered to the seller within 17 days. Additional amount of financing. So if you don't have a second loan, then you leave this blank. If you do, then you put it here. So then of course your deposit 10,000, and then you down 200,000, so your balance is 190,000 left. And then it come up to purchase price, and then initial, and again the address, the date, seller credit. If you're asking for any seller credit, in addition to seller concession to pay for the buyer broker the buyer agent commission, then you add it here. If not, then just leave it blank. Seller credit to apply to closing costs. Nope. If you're asking for any credit to apply to closing costs, you check it here. If not, any other financial term, finance term. If not, just leave it blank. Seller agreed to pay to compensate broker under a separate agreement. Check that. Have your agent check that, and then that is the seller payment form right here. I will go through that in a second. But make sure your seller check. I mean your agent check this when they submitted an offer. If it's an all cash offer, then within 3 days you have to show the statement that you have all cash. Verification of down payment. You have to if it's a loan and then the down payment, you have 3 days to submit that information. Usually we already have this before, like with our offer, we already send in like a pre-approval, a bank statement, and then the offer. So So this is the bank statement in order offer. Well, for every single offer that I submitted for my client, I do have this already. So this is not even relevant. Verification of loan application. So within 3 days, you have to give them the information about your loan officer and have them start talking to your loan officer. So default is 3 days, but if you need more, you add it here. Pre-approval, check that if you already have the pre-approval with that offer. Final verification of condition. So prior to accepting the property, like and close escrow, you have 5 days before that to walk the property one more time and make sure that everything's still in place. So 5 days before close escrow, you can do the final verification condition. So you can leave that blank. It's a normal assignment request. Most contract don't have assignment, so let's just leave that blank. You have 17 days of loan contingency. This is one of the most important item on this form. Make sure that you talk to your lender, your loan officer, to find out what kind of timeline they need to give you an approval for your loan. If the default is 17 days, but if they need more, they have to put it here. You have to put it here, or you have to have your agent put it here. Because if you remove this, and you remove the appraisal contingency, and you remove the inspection contingency, if all contingency has been removed, then any cancellation after that, they can deduct money from your deposit, the 10,000 deposit. So you will lose some of the money from the deposit if all three contingency has been removed and you cancel and it's your fault. So even if the loan doesn't go through and you remove all the contingency already, and then something happened to the lender afterward, and they can't approve your loan and they can't give you the money to buy this property, and you have to cancel, then you're gonna lose some money from the deposit. So don't remove all the contingency unless you absolutely know that you're gonna get it. So default loan contingency 17 days. Appraisal contingency, the appraisal contingency is when the lender send in an appraiser, if the price of the appraisal is less than the purchase price, you can use that to either back out or renegotiate with the seller. So for example, this property you offer 1 million, but then the appraisal only come in at like 900,000, then the lender will only lend it to you 80% of 900,000, which is like 720,000, right? So because it's only 720,000, and if you still want to buy it at 1 million, then you have to come up with 280,000 instead of just 200,000. So if you don't have that extra money, then you can use the appraisal contingency and say, oh, it's either you lower the price so I can afford it, or I have to walk away. So that will give you an exit. And when you cancel with a contingency, you get the deposit back. Usually you get all the deposit back. I said usually because sometimes the escrow company might have a cancellation charge, and most of the time you won't know this unless escrow is open, and then you got the escrow instruction, and then they say in the instruction how much they're going to charge you, or it's based on how much they spend already, any service that they already provided, then they're going to charge you for that. In my 17 years in real estate, I only get charged for escrow for a cancellation one time. Most escrow, they will just give you the full deposit back because I mean if it's a couple $100 and they don't care, so they most of the time they're gonna want to keep the relationship between you, the agent, and them more, so they're not gonna nickel and dime you on that. So if you cancel in a fairly reasonable time frame, like let's say within 3, 10, or 15 days, you're probably gonna get all your money back from escrow. But if they are charging because they send like a FedEx or something to you and they have to charge a fee for those, then they're gonna deduct it from the deposit. So you get 17 days loan, 17 days appraisal, 17 days of the home inspection. Now the home inspection usually it takes like 2 days to send out an inspector. After escrow open, 2 days to send out an inspector. And then maybe a 24 to 48 hours for the inspector to return with a report to you. So 17 days might be too much, and it might it might give the seller an impression that you're not very serious if you need 17 days to inspect the property. So usually I will reduce this to 10 days. Just ask them for 10 days. The shorter the amount of days, then the better your offer would look. So I usually put it 10 days only for my for most. I recommend my buyer to only need 10 days for inspection, because in 2 days we get the inspector out, and then in 4 days we get the report back, and we got 6 days to talk it over and then negotiate with the seller what to repair or how much to credit back. So 10 days is plenty for that. And then other than that, all the other stuff you don't need to worry about that much, because those aren't very important. The most important thing is the loan, appraisal, and the home inspection. So like I said, if you remove the home inspection, appraisal, like if you done dealing with the home inspection and you remove it, and then you remove the appraisal, make sure you keep the loan as long as you can, because once you remove all three, then you might lose money from the deposit. But if you have one of them in there, and most of the time it's gonna be the loan that's the longest, because sometimes it take like a week, or maybe like 10 days just to send out an appraiser out. It depends on the lender. Then you already lose half of your timeline. So the appraisal is gonna be the long one. Once the appraisal is done, then the loan will be will be fairly quick too. So other than that, leave that. You don't need anything here. Just show default is your seller's gonna occupy a vacant unit. Close the escrow when they're gonna move. So it's gonna be either close the escrow, or if you give them an extra 3 days, then make sure you put a 3 day after escrow. So and then you intend to occupy the unit as a primary resident. Check here. No, I mean sorry. Occupy unit by a tenant. If there's somebody living in there right now, then you check it. Then your agent will check here. If not, then they just leave it blank. Then all these you can just leave it blank. Don't need to worry about that. Here, just check here. I think this is the new from the last update. This is new. You don't have, the agent don't have to check much here unless you want something from the house. Like for example, if you want the dishwasher or dryer and washer, then you check that. If not, then just leave it blank. Most of the time we just leave it blank unless the seller want to leave it. And then what you don't want from the house. Like let's say if you see something that is there and you don't want it, you have your agent listed here, and make sure that they have to remove it before they give you the property. The second most important section is right here. So right here is where the who's paying for what service on during escrow. So most of the time in California, the natural hazard report will be paid by the seller. Now, when I check for my client, I put seller, but you can like kind of like dictate who is going to provide the report to. If you do, then you have your agent check here and put it. If not, then usually you just get seller choice, because most of the time the seller is gonna pick the company that they're gonna use to provide the natural hazard report. So you can just put it like that. Optional Wi-Fi disclosure report. That's optional, so you don't have to just leave it blank. This one is any other report, leave it blank. Who's gonna pay for the smoke alarm, a CO detector, the seller, anything that you don't know if they're gonna charge or not. Just have your agent put as seller. Some of these will not even be relevant. For example, like, a government required point of sale inspection. I haven't seen one of those for ages. So, but then if the agent don't know, then just put seller so that they are aware that if there's a fee for that kind of report or the service for that kind of report, they're gonna sell it. Escrow in California, it's gonna be each pay their own. And again, well, who's the escrow officer? Just put like a seller choice here, because the seller is gonna be the one that are choosing the escrow company. Title insurance, seller's gonna pay for it. The lender insurance, buyer gonna pay for it. The counter tax, just put like seller, if there are any. If there's HOA transfer fee, just put seller. Private transfer fee, we don't have much of those, so just leave it blank. And then home warranty, if you request a seller to pay for home warranty, check that there, and then check how much is it. Typically, home warranty right now is like around 570, depending on the home too. So just make sure that your agent survey the area and see how much home warranty is going to cost. And then if they want a specific home warranty company, make sure that they put it there. If you want to waive the home warranty, you can put it here. Now it's something that the seller's gonna pay for, so I recommend just ask for it. And then other term. Now the old form actually have this inside the contract, but then they remove it for some reason. But I always recommend my client to add this into the contract if it's not already there. So what it is the pest control. So then here is like, seller shall pay for a wood destroying pest control report and agree to pay to correct section 1 of the report. Make sure that your agent put it in there unless the seller specifically put in their listing that they won't do any pest control repairs. Because this section 1 is what is the current termite, like what's going, like the current issue with the property. So they have to clear section 1 and then section 2, like preventive method for in the future, which once you own the property already, then it's kind of like your responsibility. So make sure you add it here, and then any other term, have them added here. And other than that, to be honest, like that's probably most of the contract already. And then repeat again. If there's any other form, your agent's gonna check here. So buyer investigation and wire fraud advisory, fair housing, and this is already checked, so it's there. Other than that, you don't need to worry much about the rest of them. So this, most of them is gonna kind of like explain to you what's going on. Like the initial deposit, shall be delivered to escrow, blah 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 blah, within 3 days, stuff like that. And then so yep, so nothing to sign that to actually add here. Property address, that buy and state financing, and then closing possession, that when you're going to take possession of the property, condition of property, like how it is, and then do an inspection and do a final walkthrough. Seller remain in possession after closing, like how many days they should allow to be in the possession of the property before they give it up to you. And we already put it that number on top. And then at close of escrow, contingency removal date. So already go through that. If there's no loan contingency, then you have to check that. But if you have a loan, make sure you have that in there, because if you remove that, you might lose your deposit. Appraisal, uh, title, if it's condo, by review. So basically, that's about it for the purchase contract. Now, if you scroll down all the way to the end, the only thing left in here is probably just the agent, like the broker's information. And then, sorry, I know it's a bit over my 10 to 15 minute, but the contract is a bit long, so let's bear with me. This section is kind of important too. It's you have to initial here because it's a liquidated damage. So what they want you to agree to is, if something happened, you want to go through mediation first to resolve it, instead of like starting submitting a lawsuit and start suing everybody. So they require you to agree to go through a mediation process if something come up. Mediation and arbitration of dispute. So your agent will probably gonna ask you to initial here and initial here that you agree to go through that process first before you file any lawsuit. And then other than that, scroll down, nothing. So again, you're the buyer, so you sign here. And then if the seller accepting it or account, sending a counter offer, they can fill that out. And then here's the broker information. So your agent information, your agent broker's information is gonna be here. And then the seller agent information is gonna be here. And then go down by advisory. So it's advise you to make sure you hire the specialist to investigate the property for you, help you. If there's a pool, you have the right to hire a pool inspector. And then if there's some solar, you can hire somebody to check the solar and stuff like that. So possible representation more by than one. So sign that. Fair housing discrimination. All that. Buy home insurance. Advise to buy home insurance. a wire fraud, sign this because this is like to notify you that there are wiring fraud. So make sure that you're aware of it and that you'll be careful and uh, always check. I have another video that I mentioned this briefly. Make sure that you check with your agent or the escrow company before you send in any wiring. And if the closing cost, if your closing fund needs to be wired to a different account, that rarely happen. So make sure that you call the escrow company and speak with the original agent, the original escrow officer that when you first open escrow that you work with, because sometimes they can reroute your phone number to a different, a different person, and that person can kind of like manipulate you into sending into wiring money into a different account. So be very careful. Double check. And if you have any question about any of those, just make sure you reach out to your agent so that they can help you. And then here is the new form uh, that we ask the seller to pay for the buyer broker. So the buyer broker compensation. So fill out name, date, the following item, term, company, and then your purchase date. The first the contract date is that known to you, and then the companies, and then how much, some percentage, so 2%. Now here, the amount subject to variable below, seller agreed to pay broker 2% purchase price, our transaction. Maximum seller payment obligation. Seller shall only be obligated to pay buyer broker the lesser of the amount specified in here or the amount specified in the buyer broker agreement on top. So remember we put 2% at the buyer broker agreement on top. So this amount needs to be the same or else they're going to pay the lower of the two amounts. And then if there is no buyer representation agreement, then seller has no obligation to pay buyer broker. So that's the reason why all the buyer agent need the buyer to sign the buyer broker agreement. Because if they don't, and then the seller so sorry have no obligation to pay for the buyer agent, and the for a buyer agent to protect themselves, they need that contract to be signed. And other than that, seller license to remain in possession addendum. Why is it here? I don't think I need that. Sorry, I think I put that in there by mistake. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. Tenant occupied addendum. Why do we have that? Okay, so I think this might gotten here by mistake. But rent cap. Oh, wait. Why they keep on putting new stuff? Oh, so that should be the end of it. Sorry, I think for some reason they add the other two items. Oh, because I think earlier I checked the seller, the tenant occupied and stuff, so they added those one in. But anyway, that should be it for the purchase contract. So you have to sign this buyer broker agreement with your buyer agent, and then when you are ready to offer a house, they're gonna send you the California residential purchase agreement, and those are the items that I pointed out. That to be aware of. Make sure all the contingencies are there, and that you don't remove them all unless you're 99.9% sure that you're gonna get the loan, because the loan is the most of the time a failed transaction is because of the loan. Maybe the appraisal doesn't come enough and you don't have the down payment for it to cover the extra the extra month, like the extra amount you need, or the lender don't blend it to you because of something on your credit history. So be careful and make sure you don't remove it. And if your agent encourages you to remove all those contingency, all prior to you know for sure that you need it, then question it. Like it's a big red flag if they want you to remove all the contingency at the outset, because after you remove the contingency, you have there's a potential for you to lose your deposit, and don't lose the deposit. I've never lost a deposit from my client before. I did, like I said, I did get charged. Yeah, we did get charged from an escrow company for some fees for cancellation, but that's like a $300 out of like a $10,000 deposit. So It's a big difference. Anyway, if you have any question, please reach out to me. And if you see this video, like just if you find this video beneficial, informative, please like my channel and subscribe. And hopefully, I'll have a more video to showcase some of the tip and trips, tip and tricks from real estate for you in the near future. So thank you, and see you next time.